Hey, I'm Danielle Graber. I'm the Director of 12 Point Psychology, and I will be walking you through our informed consent form today. For a psychologist, for a counsellor, for any mental health professional, it's really important for us and for the clients that our therapeutic relationship is clear. So I know what to expect from my clients and they know what to expect from me and from the practice. And the informed consent form is how we do that. So let's walk through it because I'm not going to lie, it's a little clunky. There's a lot of detail, but this is all detail that really needs to be in there from the point of view of our registration bodies and the APS, which is the Psychology Society of Australia, and an APRA, which is our big registration body, because they want to make sure that we are protecting our clients and doing everything legitimately. So first part is that this is a consent form, and just reminding you that, yes, when you sign this consent form, it is an agreement between 12 Point Psychology and yourself as the client engaging in our services. So our responsibilities to you as the therapists and as the practice is that we need to collect information. We need to know, your name and your date of birth. If you want to claim a Medicare rebate, we need your Medicare card and your GP's details. And we need to be able to collect all that information just at a very basic level to make sure that we're doing everything above board and you're getting, rebates and things that you're entitled to. It's also quite important to the therapeutic process because we can only work off what you give us. So if there's something that you're really worried about talking about, or you're really nervous, or you just don't know how to say it, that information might be quite crucial to what we call the formulation. And that's the way that your therapist sort of thinks about your presentation, your case, where you want to go, and different things. Even if you don't think it's terribly relevant, sometimes it can be really crucial to understanding, what has created the patterns that we're seeing in the present. Sometimes, information from the past can be really useful there. So you do not have to give, well, technically you don't have to give any of this information, but it does mean that the help and the service that we're able to provide you might be limited by that. So access to client information. There's a few things that are important here, but probably the two big ones is all of your information stays private, confidential, it's in the vault. We're not going to share that information with anyone at all unless, one, we think that you might be at risk of harm, either that you might harm yourself or that you might harm someone else, in which case we are then mandated, we have to tell someone that we think can help. That might be, your GP, that might be a family member, that might be the crisis assessment team, but we are allowed to break confidentiality in that case to say, look, I'm really, really worried that someone's going to get quite badly hurt. In 9 out of 10 cases, we will discuss that with you ahead of time. We will say, look, given what you've just told me, I'm really concerned about X, Y, and Z, and I need to contact so-and-so to make sure that you or whoever is safe tonight. The other thing that will compel us to share information is if we are subpoenaed. So if we are subpoenaed by a court, and that can be the Family Magistrates Court, that can be a local magistrates court, but any legal subpoena, we have to release information. We will often, if we get a subpoena, we will often try and talk to the lawyers involved, and depending on the case, we can suggest, and we can suggest quite strongly, that a summary might be more appropriate. But ultimately, if they say, no, we want all the notes, we have to give them all the notes. This is why we ask questions about, like, are there any legal issues pending before you book in? Because it just makes us a little bit more aware of what we're writing down in our notes, and if a subpoena is going to come into play, down the track if it's something that we need to consider. And finally, if you've got a mental health care plan from your GP, we have to write your GP a letter after the first 6 sessions, then after 4 sessions, then after 6, then after 4, until the end of time. No, we have to write those letters to the GP. So we don't go into a lot of detail in those letters. They're generally less than a page long. It's basically saying, yes, so-and-so has been seeing us here for 6 months. We are working on her anxiety and she's responding well to a combination of schema and animal-assisted therapy, for example. We think she would benefit from more sessions. Like, that's the extent of the letter. It's not, we don't go into a huge amount of detail, again, unless we're concerned about that health and safety risk. You can request access to your own notes as well under the Health Records Act. Our preference is always to provide a summary rather than full notes to anyone. One, because every therapist writes their notes slightly differently. And personally, as a therapist, if I'm taking a handover client from someone else, I don't want to see the other therapist's notes. I want to be able to form my own opinions and figure out how things are going myself. What was important for them to note down, what they've taken notes of, probably not terribly, it might be useful, it might not. What's more important is that I've got a bit of an idea of, they responded well to CBT or they hated CBT. I need to know the broad strokes much more than the details. And for a client, if you were to read a copy of your own notes, and I'm speaking as a psychologist and someone who has seen a psychologist and read my own notes and letters to the GPs and things like that. Even as a psychologist, reading about myself in that clinical language wasn't distressing, but it was certainly disturbing. It definitely didn't feel great. Even though I agreed with absolutely everything that was written in there, even though I completely knew and understood every single word that was written in there, it was really strange to read about yourself in that clinical language. So we really discourage people from accessing case notes in their entirety, whether that's a subpoena, whether that's through the Health Records Act, insurance companies. It's usually not useful, and it can actually be a bit distressing. So we will try everything possible to hold on to your individual notes to protect your confidentiality and privacy and your mental health, unless we really have no choice. So that's the stuff about confidentiality that's really important to know. There's a charter for clients of mental health clinicians, which I won't go into here. That's available on the APS website. It's available on our website, and there's a copy of it printed out in the waiting room as well. But that's basically sort of saying these are your rights as someone who is accessing mental health service. Your responsibilities as a client. So you are responsible for paying for your sessions, even if you have third-party funding through something like TAC or NDIS. If for whatever reason there is a problem with that, we've had it happen where someone's come in under TAC and there's been a problem with the way that the payments have been set up or something or other like that, and TAC says they won't pay for that first session. The client, ultimately, at the end of the day, you are responsible for paying for that session and then dealing with TAC and getting the money back from them directly. Our fees are automatically deducted from your credit card the morning of your sessions. So this is so we've got more time to focus on just the therapy. A 50-minute session is not a massive amount of time. And we want to spend more time actually in the session and doing that. Incidentally, the reason that we do a 50-minute session, so the appointment we block out an hour, 50 minutes of that is what we call active therapy, where we might be sitting in the room or on the telehealth call with you. And then 10 minutes is passive therapy. And that's when we might be finishing up our case notes, working on that formulation, writing our GP letters, whatever it might be. So it's taking care of the the paperwork and the behind the scenes stuff of that session. If we don't do that, then by the end of the day, we've usually got a couple of hours worth of paperwork to do before we go home, and nobody really wants that. So one, it keeps that session to 50 minutes. It's nice and contained, predictable, consistent for you, but also gives us the chance to take care of those behind the scenes sort of admin related tasks. If you are using a mental health care plan, that means that you are accessing mental health services under the Better Access scheme. That means that you are eligible at the moment, as of 2024, you are eligible for up to 10 Medicare rebates per year on your sessions. So this is no different from seeing another specialist. You get your referral from the GP, you see the specialist charges you, and then you claim back the rebate from Medicare. It's exactly the same thing with us, but it is your responsibility. Your therapist should try and remind you. Admin will try and remind you. We've got like automatic things set up to go out and remind you when a new mental health care plan is due, but ultimately it is your responsibility to track that. So talk to your therapist about how that works. Basically, you need to go back and see your GP at the end of your first 6 sessions if you want to continue getting the rebate. At the end of your 10th session for that year, that calendar year, so from January to December 2024, we have to send another letter back to the GP saying we finished the 10 sessions and letting them know if you're going to come back next year and try and get more sessions, if you're going to continue privately, whatever it might be. But ultimately, just like when you see a specialist, they might remind you that you need a new referral. We'll try and remind you, but it is up to you to get that referral. If you don't have that referral, we can't process the rebate, and you might have to wait until the next session to process the rebate. We can't process them retrospectively either. So if you see me on Tuesday and you don't get the plan till Thursday, I can't use that plan until the following appointment. Session fee policy. This is important as well. We want to make sure that you're coming to your appointments. We know all of the research tells us that clients who attend regularly and consistently have better outcomes, and we want to encourage that. So we encourage that by saying your hour is your hour, your 50 minutes is your 50 minutes, and we want you to prioritize that. So we'll tell you, don't rely on the reminders, put it into your diary to make sure you don't double book yourself. We'll send you out those reminders. But again, ultimately, we want you to have that in your diary, to be looking at that and going, yep, that's my time. I need to prioritize that. Things happen. Absolutely. We get that. But if, for example, your appointment is at 12 o'clock and you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm really sick, I really can't do this, we might offer you a telehealth appointment instead. So you're like, yeah, I'm coughy and sneezy, but I'm okay. I just don't want to, spread this bug around. I'll do telehealth. Or we might offer you basically the opportunity for your therapist to use that hour to do some work on your behalf. And that might be, creating a template for you of strategies that you found helpful. That might be sending you some videos. We've got some videos on different topics where, I walk you through things like the flight and fight response or mindfulness practice. So it might be, how can we make use of this time that you have set aside for your session? Last resort is we cancel, but that session fee is still payable because we are a private practice and we rely solely on the income from our clients to run. If we get too many cancellations in a week, and you can imagine, like flu season and that kind of stuff, if everyone cancels that week, there's no income coming in to pay admin. There's no income coming in to pay the rent. So it is really, really important for us that we get that sort of, that we've got an idea of that consistency of income, but also that you're getting that consistency in your sessions as well, even if it's something like just watching a video on a particular topic that your therapist thinks is relevant to you. Also means, of course, that people on our wait list get a chance to come in for a session if we get a bit more notice of a cancellation. So if you need to cancel or reschedule and you give us 2 business days notice, fine, no problem. We can manage that. We would still encourage you to try and use that appointment in some other way, like the videos or the telehealth, but you can do that and your session fee is not payable. But if you cancel within that 2 days, then the session fee is still payable. And it's up to you if you want to make use of that fee by doing something like one of the videos or a telehealth session, or if you just want to forfeit that fee. You have the right always to ask questions, and we encourage that. Ask, why are we doing this exercise? Or ask, what does this have to do with my anxiety? Like I said, it's collaborative. We need us to be doing our job, but we also need you to be letting us know how we're going at that job, because that's just going to work better. You can always, once you see a therapist, you're not tied into them for life. If you, at the end of that session, go, this person, the fit's not right, the fit is really important. And again, the research says the fit is super important. You might not necessarily feel immediately comfortable in your very first session, because it does usually feel quite strange and a little bit anxiety provoking, but you generally get a little bit of a sense of, yeah, this is someone that I can talk to, or no, I don't think that fit is right. Talk to our practice manager, Trish, send me an email, let us know what felt off if you can. I had a client once who emailed afterwards and said, you just remind me too much of my sister and it's freaking me out. There's nothing I can do about that. So it was finding her someone who was very, very dissimilar to me, and hoping that wouldn't repeat, which it didn't. So yes, definitely keep us informed. You're not going to hurt our feelings. If you need to cancel, if you need to reschedule, you're not going to get into trouble, anything like that. We just want to make sure we're providing you the best service possible. All right. Special provisions for us. So we're an animal-assisted therapy practice. That means in particular that there are often dogs on the premises. So we want you to be aware of that. And we definitely need you to let us know if you have any allergies to dogs or dog fur or dander, if you have any dog phobias, and if you are bringing a dog with you, say you have an assistance dog, a trained certified guide dog, for example, then absolutely fine, but just let us know ahead of time and we'll make sure that we've got our dogs either outside or in the room waiting, because we want to introduce the dogs to each other in an optimal way, so that there's no, negative reactions or associations for the guide dog or for the therapy dogs. Okay. All right, telehealth. So when we use telehealth, this is just some extra information about privacy of telehealth connections. We generally use either CoView or Zoom these days, so you can check out their privacy policies and what happens to the data through those links there. If you're doing telehealth, it's still really important, again, that you carve out that hour for yourself, that you don't try and do the session while you're in the middle of the grocery shopping, that you don't set yourself up at the laptop at the kitchen bench when the kids are running around and people are asking when dinner is. Still find a place where you can be, relatively undisturbed and really be able to focus on that session. If we're doing telehealth, so particularly video, and we're having connection problems, the general rule is we will try for 5 minutes. We'll make 3 attempts. If it's still not working, then we will give you a call and we'll try and complete that session via phone. It doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. So another good reason to make sure that your phone number, address, etc. are always up to date. Okay, then you come to the end of the consent form and we want you to say that you have read and understood the consent form, very useful. You understand that the session fee is still payable even if you cancel, if it's less than 2 days notice. you agree to those conditions, you consent to the treatment via telehealth where needed. That's particularly important if we, fingers crossed it doesn't happen, but if we go into another pandemic, that you'll at least give it a go trying to do the sessions by telehealth. It's not always ideal, but we have plenty of tricks to try and make it work. And that 12 Points is an animal-assisted therapy practice, so animals may be on site at any time. Then you type your name, so who has read all of this and agrees to all of this, you type your name and you sign your name. If you are completing this form on behalf of someone else, so say your child, so the parent name and signature here and the child name goes here, and that just helps us match it up to the right file. So that is the 12 Points Psychology Consent Form. I hope you have found this useful. And if you've got any questions, please do either email me, Danielle at 12pointspsychology.com, or get in touch with Trish, our practice manager, and we'll be very happy to help you out in any way that we can. Otherwise, your clinician can talk to you through any aspects of this form as well. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.